All right, folks, we got XRP ready to flip Ethereum. We have a Ripple board advisor actually interviewing Jerome Powell. Ripple always finding a way in the room. And speaking of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, we have President Trump saying that his termination could not come fast enough. And we're going to talk about the liquidity crisis to get this episode started. I just wanted to say thank you for all your support. If you guys can help us out by liking all of our content, sharing it out far and wide, and then if you want to show additional support, all of our community resources are available at zachrector.com. I just want to say we greatly appreciate you for supporting the cause. Let's rock and roll and get right on into it. Here we go. We're looking at the reverse repo market. Starting off here with a chart of the reverse repo, overnight reverse repurchase agreements. And basically, this is another backstop form of liquidity for the banks, right? The back end of the banking system. We've been talking about this liquidity crisis. And we just saw this get drained of about 34 billion yesterday. So we're now down to 54 billion. Now, after 2020 came through, we saw this thing drop all the way to zero. This thing was drained. Basically, all this liquidity that helps keep our system running was drained. And then it got built back up, and it went up to about 3 trillion. And so now we're all the way back down here to 54 billion remaining. We just got hit for 34 billion yesterday, and we're back to a level you can see zoomed out on this chart here. Going back to 2018, Fed started to raise rates, and then that took us into 2019. We had a little bit of a liquidity crisis happening before Trump left office on his first term. And then, of course, during 2020, this got drained all the way down to zero for quite some time. And it took us a while to build it back up, but now you're starting to see it crack again. So that liquidity crisis is still very, very much present, and we're starting to see that get drained quickly. Speaking of liquidity, we have President Trump speaking on the European Central Bank, which did cut rates again today. The effective rate in the European Central Bank there is 2.25% now. But this is the 7th rate cut for the ECB, and yet too late, which is the new nickname for Jerome Powell from President Trump, too late Jerome Powell of the Fed, who is always too late and wrong, yesterday issued a report which was another and typical complete mess. Oil prices are down, groceries, even eggs are down, and the USA is getting rich on tariffs. Too late should have lowered interest rates like the ECB long ago, but he should certainly lower them now. Powell's termination cannot come fast enough. What I'm worried about is that even if we do get the Fed rate cuts, we have a meeting coming up in May. Potentially, you could see a decision made in May or June. And I believe that the odds of a cut at one of those meetings is very likely. But the problem is we saw what happened last year when the Fed started to cut rates. The bond market called BS, and the yields actually went up. So the bond market's been blowing up basically since last year. That's still going on. And if we can't find a way to get these rates down, Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary, and President Trump know that Main Street is not going to be able to survive, right? Despite prices coming down slightly, the compounding inflation still has us asking, what's President Trump talking about with grocery prices coming down? Because we're still feeling it, right? Compared to where we were at just a few years ago, inflation is still compounded to a level that's pretty dramatic. And if we can't get the rates down for folks to refinance debt, we're going to be in a serious, serious situation. So this is all the way, I showed you the reverse repo. This is a liquidity crisis on the back end of the banking system, all the way back down here to Main Street. This is the problem that we face right now. With global investors, really never have been this bearish. Very rarely have they been this bearish on the U.S. stock market. A record 50% of institutional investors intend to reduce U.S. equity exposure, according to a Bank of America survey released Monday. Allocation to U.S. stocks fell 13 percentage points over the last month to a net 36% underweight, the lowest since the March 2023 banking crisis. Since February, investors' allocation to U.S. equities has dropped by 53 percentage points, marking the largest two-month decline on record. Moreover, a record 82% of respondents are now expecting the world economy to weaken. As a result, global investor sentiment fell to just 1.8 points, the fourth lowest reading since 2008. We have likely never seen such a rapid shift in sentiment. Now, where are they going? This is interesting. foreign holdings of treasuries jumped 290 billion to 8.82 trillion in February. Now, we've seen a little bit of a sell-off in the bond market over the past couple of weeks since the tariffs and the Liberation Day really went live. We did see a response. And so this is the main threat that China and other foreign investors really hold against America. And, really the war right now, the focus is on China and on isolating China. And the main weapon that they hold is the amount of treasuries that they have. But we've been documenting over the past couple of years how they've already been selling treasuries off at a pace that we haven't seen since the great financial crisis, before the tariffs went live, before we got ourselves into this situation. But we're going to need more buyers of treasuries to drive back down those yields, to drop rates, because even if Jerome Powell comes in and tries to save the day and cut rates, it's going to be too late, and it's not going to solve the problem if you still have China and other countries which, to save their own butts, are going to dump our treasuries. This is the situation that we're going to be watching very closely. Now, let's get into cryptocurrency. It's crazy out here in the trenches, as they call them, and the degens and the memes and all this silly stuff. We just had, apparently, Coinbase apparently launched a couple coins yesterday, and they rugged completely right away. So this guy put out this post. In all seriousness, what Base just did was wreck so many people. They launched a coin. It was running very well. They seemed to actually give a winner and have the right narrative, only to launch another coin immediately after, nuking everyone that was bridging over from another chain. Yeah, so there is actually just not many people who will ever go back to Base. What a dumpster fire. And I'm bringing this up because it reiterates the point that I've been making and why I'm so bullish on real utility coins that are solving real problems. And I mean, this is what we've been invested in this whole time. If we are going to play around with some memes or whatever, we treat that like the casino, right? We take casino money, to the memes, and we play around a little bit if you need to scratch that degenerate itch, essentially. But what we're seeing is the Solana ecosystem in shambles. What Base just did yesterday, absolute crap show. And this is kind of just the whole meme scene over here in these other ecosystems is in shambles. This is one of the reasons why I dropped an update yesterday on Zebek Network, and the ticker ZBCN, is because they originally were on Solana. Now they're on Ethereum and Binance. So they've spread out multi-chain. But I'm looking at these ecosystems, and I've already seen a big inflow of Solana. I call them Solana bros, Sol bros, and ETH bros. They've come on over to our ecosystem to trade XRP memes and to start to play around in our DeFi, because all these other ecosystems are just in shambles right now. And so for Zebek Network, to me, I think that it's going to see inflows coming from folks that give up on the Solana memes, that give up on being a degen, and they say, okay, where can I find real utility? And instead of having to bridge over to other chains, they can just go buy Zebek Network directly on Solana, directly on ETH, directly on BNB. So one of the many reasons why I'm going to be providing a full deep dive on this project, put out a little first look update on it yesterday, but I had to jump and get the update out yesterday because my TA friend gave me the word here, and this one looks like it has a lot of room to run. From Bunny Boy Time on X. ZBCN Zebek Network. This coin is holding up well from the lows. It has a five-wave impulse to the upside. And by the way, I can't wait to read this off because this is the most ridiculous crap ever. And I love this guy. He provides good technical analysis, but this is what makes me just laugh. I can't even take myself serious reading off this wave 5 zigzag. Just wait. This is gold. This is gold right here. He says this coin is holding up well from the lows. It has a 5-wave impulse to the upside. It then has a corrective WXYZ double zigzag. Oh, I love it. It ended with a higher low. We should now be moving off the lows into new highs. Market cap fibs would take us up to 963% higher. That's nearly a 1,000% potential. Not a guarantee, not financial advice. He's just saying, hey, if we do a full fib retrace, you're talking about a 10-bagger potentially. Now, you guys know what I've been looking for. I've been looking for real utilities, primarily based in America right now, which Zebek checks off those boxes. But I'm looking for projects that give us 3 to 5x potential, even just going back up to previous all-time highs. Not even going and doing anything crazy. Just back up to levels that the coin's already been at before. And we're looking at a triple it up opportunity. But for Zebek here, Bunny Boy, he says 900% potential. It's going to be interesting to watch this project. I picked up a bag yesterday. You guys let me know what you think about this one, but I'm going to be dropping a full deep dive on this project. Very interesting stuff. Now, from subjective views here, does anyone else find it highly interesting that the chair of the Federal Reserve is being interviewed by a Ripple Advisory Board member, Raghuram Rajan, who is specifically there for ROUSD oversight? And I want to add that yesterday's press conference with Jerome Powell at the Economic Club of Chicago, he directly mentioned that crypto's legit. Basically, I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but it's here to stay, and that we need to pass stablecoin regulations and stablecoin law. Well, who's doing that and who's helping advise Ripple to do so? This gentleman right here, Raghuram Rajan, who is from the Central Bank of India, by the way. So take a listen in here on this clip.
Well, let me move to something which is more about technological change and new kinds of instruments, cryptocurrencies. How do you see the potential for more favorable regulations coming on them and potential risks from that for the system?
So we went through a wave of failures and fraud and things like that were the headlines for a couple of years. And I think what you see now is, and during that period, by the way, we worked with Congress to try to get a legal framework for stablecoins, which would have been a nice place to start. We were not successful. I think that the climate is changing, and you're moving into sort of more mainstreaming of that whole sector. So.
Yep. And I'm going to cut him off quick right there. This is Raghuram Rajan, former governor of the Reserve Bank of India, now serving on the Ripple USD Advisory Board. So you see, the connections with Ripple into every facet of our government with the Federal Reserve. We already know a former advisory board member, Michael Barr. Well, he was actually tasked with supervising the banking crisis, and some question how well of a job or how terrible of a job he did at that. But he was there in charge of that task. So we have multiple members of the Ripple Advisory Board in and around the Federal Reserve, of course, right? This comes as no surprise after we've been tracking this project for years. But very interesting to even have, I mean, think of how far we've come to where we now have Jerome Powell speaking about how, the headlines of the corruption and the FTXs and all that, that's behind us. Now we're at a point where we're being legitimatized by the Federal Reserve, right? This is not just congressmen and women. This is not just, a few folks here and there. This is the chairman of the Federal Reserve now saying it's legit. And I've been pounding the table saying that it's a matter of national security that we pass that stablecoin legislation. Now, ROUSD is just one of many bullish catalysts behind XRP. What's interesting to watch right now is the strength on XRP leading up to the ETFs going live. One of the things that I pointed out here is how weak Ethereum has been performing, even though its ETFs are live, and they've been really a dud. I mean, we have not seen significant inflows into Ethereum from those ETFs, which just shows us it's proof. Don't take it from me. It's proof. The proof is in the pudding, or in this case, the charts, that Ethereum is struggling like heck, even though those ETFs are live. Now, Vitalik, he's not at Mar-a-Lago. And I'm reposting this post here from Dom TraderView, who shows that for the first time in history, XRP has outperformed Ethereum for more than 5 months in a row. How much longer will this last is the question that he asks. And I think this is going to last for quite some time, actually. And I retweeted and I said, Vitalik is not at Mar-a-Lago. The benefits of the ETH free pass have wore off during the Trump administration. There's a really big difference between Ripple side by side with President Trump, Ripple advisory board member interviewing Jerome Powell. Where's Vitalik at? I don't know, but I know he's not at Mar-a-Lago. I know he's not next to President Trump. I know he's not with the Federal Reserve. I don't know what he's doing. Yeah, you guys can tell me where Vitalik is and what he's been up to. I was struggling to find a good picture of Vitalik for my thumbnail for this video. because all the pictures of them, I mean, they're not good pictures. I wasn't trying to do them dirty. I wanted to put a nice, picture of Vitalik in the thumbnail because I was figured, let's take it nice. XRP is going to flip ETH. I don't need to put one of these silly pictures of Vitalik on the thumbnail. I'm going to keep it respectful. But I was having a heck of a time trying to find a decent picture of this guy. Every picture, he's got bedhead. He's got unicorns and spaceships and aliens on his shirt, which is cool. I mean, I like talking about aliens too. I'm trying to get a good picture of this guy, and we finally did. It took me some time, but I did find one. But this is Dom TraderView sharing the XRP Ethereum update. XRP just retested the resistance we have looked at for months as support. It's now trading above that level that deemed high importance over the last 8 years. Based on history, price only ever moved fast after. So if you're wondering when XRP is going to go again, right? XRP's already been moving. But when's our next leg up coming? I've been saying it's right around the corner. We are right around the corner. If this chart is any indicator, it is happening soon. He says it seems like a very odd time for this to show up, and if it turns out to be a dud, that proves how much the market behavior has really changed over the years. I would say it's actually, we've flipped even more bullish and more strong for XRP. As we've seen, ETFs for live for ETH, it's still struggling. So when we've historically gone up against this level, we didn't have all of this bullish catalyst for XRP. We actually had a free pass for Ethereum the last couple times we've been up to this level. Now look at the charts right here. Early 2017, we broke through this level. We skyrocketed to a new all-time high. Late in 2017, broke through this level, off to a new all-time high. Same thing in 2018. And we're looking at the same setup right now, where we've broken through this level on the XRP Ethereum chart. And it is not going to take much. Ethereum right now, with a market cap of 193 billion, XRP at 121 billion. Now, when XRP went up to about 330, 340 in the middle of January, the market cap was at about 190 billion. So if Ethereum stays at the same price level, relatively close to it, and XRP just goes up to 350, we're flipping ETH. And I've showed you guys how little of inflows it's going to take into XRP to do so. Like, we're going to flip Ethereum with ease. Is it tomorrow? Is it next week? I can't tell you that. But I can tell you with 100% certainty from my analysis, we will be flipping ETH. And we're going to do it with ease. And the rest of the space, they're going to be racking their brains trying to figure out how this happened. You know what I'm saying? The market cap bros, how did XRP get up to 2, 3, 4, 500 billion market cap? Just wait till we hit 1 trillion. Just wait till we get 1 trillion. It's coming. Not going to take much. But with everything going on right now, holding our utilities based in America, leading performer since the new Trump administration, and I think it's going to continue for the rest of this year. You guys let me know what else you're seeing out there. Any other tickers you guys want me to review. I hope you guys appreciate our updates, and I'm very excited to see us not just flip Ethereum again, but eventually I do think that we do flip Bitcoin. You guys let me know when that happens. On the way out, let's make sure we like it. Let's make sure we share it out. ZachRector.com for our resources. God bless you all. Thank you so much. I am your host, Zach Rector. I really appreciate all of the love and support. If you want to support the channel, just remember that you can start by smashing that thumbs up for me, sharing this content far and wide, and everything else is at my website.